Hello foam warriors. Today's video we're going to take a look at how to take the Nerf RIVAL Jupiter and be able to shoot half darts through it and utilizing a hopper. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Now this project was started I think it's going on 2 weeks ago. My brother came over and we did an unboxing for the Jupiter, and I was pretty impressed with it. However, I just felt that it shouldn't be shooting rival. So I started trying to come up with an idea to allow it to basically maybe take a magazine, or finally came up with was the idea of using a hopper system. This is a part from Captain Slug's Piranha. I'll go ahead and post a link in the description. And that one utilized a component that gave it the ability to use a hopper or a magazine. I just grabbed the hopper portion and fitted it to the front of this. And it actually works pretty nice. So this is very similar to the old kind of pump snap type of systems. Kind of a throwback here. So in this video I'm going to go ahead and just completely step down, do a complete breakdown of how I took the Nerf RIVAL Jupiter and got it up to this. So yeah, as soon as we got this, we kind of looked at the numbers, we chronographed it, we did some range and accuracy checks, and he wanted to basically up its performance. And where did you go to find a kit?
I actually went to Etsy, and I found a company called Smenterprises, and they had a upgrade kit that I was able to purchase.
Cool. Yeah, so this is kind of local.
Spokane?
Yeah, Spokane. So got here pretty quick. And yeah, it has a full, got some tape in here, some grease, some pads, and instructions. And then of course you ordered was a piece of K26.
Yes, K26.
Yeah, and they have it cut. It looks like they did clean it up a bit so it's not super sharp. So very cool. So we're going to go ahead in this video. We're going to butterfly this thing open, give it an upgrade. You know, probably do the plunger tube, the spring, and I guess this foam is probably for the
plunger tube.
Yeah, just to fill the void. Okay. So yeah, I didn't know if it was supposed to cushion it because of the K26, but yeah. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and butterfly this open. So as you can see, the magazine tube assembly just fits through here. This holds 10 rounds, and it just is fed up much like the Chronos, with just a higher capacity. Here's the plunger tube assembly. This arm here connects to the bolt, which primes the blaster. Oh yeah, right here. This bolt assembly is back here, and I think the catch is up here. So this is the prime indicator to show you when it's primed. Yeah, pretty simple. The only unique thing about this blaster is that the whole plunger tube assembly and everything moves because it allows it to give access to the mag well when you prime it. So when it's not primed back and pushed forward, you can't access the mag well anymore. So this whole assembly slides, which can be a little tricky for modification. But yeah, let's open this up and get to the spring and the plunger tube and get that upgraded. Oh, real quick, let me note that the screws up in the front are longer, these 3 screws here, and then of course in the back we had the back 2 screws are long. Other than that, all the screws are the same size. We're going to go ahead and run through step by step exactly what I did here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the assembly here. This is a multiple plunger assembly where when the blaster is pulled back, it allows for loading of rival rounds to the top. So we actually have 2 plungers in here. Let's go ahead and take this out of the blaster shell so we can get a better look. And let's take this apart. Starting from left, we have a mounting piece that actually fixes to the blaster shell. And then we have the tube assembly in the middle, which has the breech for reloading of rival rounds. And we have a plastic connection piece with clips that snap together to the main plunger assembly. Let's go ahead and pull this apart, and we can see here exactly what we're working with. Here's a closer look at the loading chamber. We can see an air resistor in here. When a round is detected, it opens up the air valve. We're going to go ahead and take this screw out here so that we can get to this. I'm going to go ahead and use flush cutters and remove this air restrictor so that it looks a little bit like this. And of course, we're going to clean this up with a Dremel. And this should be the final product. We're going to use plastic bonder for the majority of this build. This is, they usually sell this at your local hardware store. I actually found this at Walmart. This stuff is really good for adhering blaster components that are under high stress. I have not had a bond break yet on any of my blasters when using this. I will be wiping everything down with 91% alcohol just to get all that grease off, because the one thing about the plastic bonder, it does not like any grease or grime, so make sure your parts are nice and clean. Here we go, we are mixed up and ready to go. We are now going to adhere this ring onto the tube assembly, kind of making our own plunger tube. I'm going to pull the O-ring off. I probably should have pulled that off to begin with. And go ahead and give this thing a wipe down. I found it helps to set this down on a flat surface while curing so that we can get a nice flat contact in the plunger tube assembly. Doing some dry fitting here and just making sure that everything lines up. Also, we want to take a look at the coupler here. So we are actually converting the tube from, well, I will post what this coupler is doing. And we need to draw a line so that we know where to cut. Now that we've got this cut, let's go ahead and adhere it together. And of course, give it a good wipe down. Now that we have that piece done, we're gonna adhere this to the hopper assembly, courtesy of Captain Slug's Piranha, which is a very cool blaster. I have not made one yet, but I'm looking to print one out. As we can see, the 3D printed part did split. So if this happens, just make sure to go in and seal it back up with some more epoxy. You should be fine. And give it all a good wipe down. Here we're just going to dry fit this a bit, get an idea of where we're going to cut. Here we're kind of lining this out so we can get a good look as to what we're doing. And this is when I start to decide that I will be putting the larger coupler inside of the mounting point. So after the cuts, we do have a good understanding of where this is going to go. Here we're have to measure to see exactly how far we're going to cut on this tube. So go ahead and mark that out. We're also going to mark out this piece. All this material needs to be cut off, and we're actually going to file this down so that we can slide the coupler in there to add as... This will act as a mounting point onto the blaster shell and kind of give the overall barrel the rigidity it needs to be part of the blaster. Now, after doing some trimming, it looks like everything is fitting up just perfect. As you can see here, the coupler fits right inside of that nozzle piece. Now it's all a matter of about getting the spacing correct. Also, keep in mind when using these pieces, on one side of the ring, they usually have numbers and text and whatnot. Try to keep that on the inside of the blaster. It just doesn't look as good to have those raised up letters and stuff sticking out. And here I'm just kind of doing some dry fitting and figuring out where exactly we're going to make our cuts on this collar piece. So let's go ahead and make that cut. Alright, let's mix up some more of the plastic bond. And we will be joining the tube assembly to the coupler that will be located inside the blaster nozzle shell mount piece. We're going to epoxy the hopper now, making sure that there's no residual epoxy on the inside, because that will affect feeding of the darts. If you can get a hold of clear tubing, that is preferred. I couldn't find any clear tubing, so I had to use just regular PVC. We are going to attach a barrel here. Now, I used a flywheel worker barrel. This is more of a cosmetic reason more than anything. The tolerance inside this barrel is far too loose for this system, but I really like the look of it. I will be going back through and putting a brass barrel. As you can see, I have a crack here. I just went ahead and filled it back up with the epoxy. Also, there is a mounting screw point on the top of this. I later came back and put a epoxy and a screw in there to plug up the system, because there is a air leak in there if you do not do that. Well, at least in this build I did. We then go ahead and apply some more epoxy to mount the hopper entry point. This again is from the Captain Slug Piranha kit, and it is a very ingenious way of loading up a hopper system. And a little bit more cleanup. We're now going to use epoxy on the housing. And we're going to have to do a little bit of cleanup. We need to check the fitting of this, because the coupler needs to be flush on the inside to prevent any air gaps. And we need to check the alignment of the shell so that everything is lined up perfectly. The step, it's very important to dry fit before doing epoxy. Also, you want to try to angle the hopper system off to the left or the right, depending if you're left or right-handed. It's very important that this part dries or cures flat, that nothing is out of alignment as it cures. So I ended up just propping it up and kind of setting up a rig to help it cure in the correct orientation. Now that that is all cured up, we're going to do some work on the plunger assembly. We're going to pull off the O-ring, add some PTFE tape or Teflon tape, and add some lithium grease. course, fit this together and ensure that it still works. This is how I check to see the length of this tube. So what happened here was we had way too much dead space. This was my attempt to alleviate some of that dead space. So I drove a tube down in there to close up the void inside there. So I put the tube all the way in and I drew a line and simply took it to the chop saw and resulted in this tube. Now we're gonna go ahead and add epoxy on the inside and the top and get this all sealed up so that we have a nice straight shot all the way through. We also did work on the plunger assembly where I pulled out the pad I had put in before and I just used Mongoose Jake's method of filling up the entire head with hot melt. We went ahead and mixed up some plastic bonder since I've run out of the plastic weld. Very similar stuff. And we're gonna go ahead and coat this down and feed it in. At the mouth of the tube, we're gonna make sure to fill all these cracks. We can't have any leaks in here. This has to be an airtight system. So as you can see here, just working the epoxy into these cracks. We will be coming back here later and sanding these down so we have a nice flush surface for the plunger tube to meet up with. And you can see some of the brass used here. I also found an air leak, so I go back and I put a little bit more epoxy in there. After this cured up, I went ahead and sanded it. Now we have a nice, flat, flush surface. Here we do a final assembly of the blaster. Okay, so we're going to be shooting cups at 30 feet. I'll be using an assortment of darts, including Worker Gen 2s, Worker Gen 3s, cut down waffles, cut down min gun, and also cut down elites, and some bamboo darts. So let's see how accurate they are. Unfortunately, all my Gen 3 workers have lost their heads. So I only have 2. We're going to start with the bamboos, since I've recently acquired some. Now we're going to do Gen 3 workers. Now for cut down elites. My final impressions on this whole project was, overall I'm happy how it turned out. I think it works. We have a K26 in here. I was expecting more performance from it. I think I still have a little bit more sealing work to do. I have noticed when I blow it, if I can blow into this and hold it, like it holds pressure really well. But I believe there's too much void in here from when you prime it. There's a section in here so it's not flush on where the dart head gets pressure and releases, because that happens up here. So the dart's sitting here and the plunger tube is back here, so this gap right here is I'm losing too much compression. So I am getting speeds of 100 FPS up to. I did see some at 107, but that was with a cut down elite, which was not accurate. So unfortunately, it seems like every cut waffle I tried to put through this did not perform well. I kept getting maybe some double feeds, and once you start double feeding, the performance drastically decreased, and now you just have a shotgun blast essentially. So I did notice that the elite type of darts always pretty much fed through, which was nice. So I ended up trying out the orange smaller bullet looking dart, which I'll go ahead and post a link to what that was. And of course the bamboos just perform the best. I had a lot of lost footage of using the bamboos, but I was actually accurately hitting targets, so I think I did capture a few of them though. Well, I hope my brother likes this build. He was a little nervous at first because he did pay full price for this so that I could do an unboxing, and he just wanted to do a K26 and just a basic plunger tube upgrade with the kit he purchased. But I kind of talked him into going to half dart because I just saw this as an opportunity to make a bolt action half dart shooting blaster, which is just awesome. So I might try a similar thing with the snipe, or maybe another bolt action type blaster I can get my hands on. But I really like it. You know, I like the aesthetics of, you know, priming the bolt. And it does in the sights still work because I offset the hopper, which is very cool. And I think this will definitely turn some heads. I don't think there's going to be too many of these out there. So I hope everyone liked this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can see when I make new content. And as always, happy nerfing.